we'll start there. Moving forward, I think it's important to understand that there's two main states of the nervous system. All right, so have you guys heard these terms before? Parasympathetic versus sympathetic? Head nods? Majority? Okay, cool. So I want to hopefully make it the best visual experience that you've ever had understanding parasympathetic versus sympathetic tone. And I actually want to start with tone and frequency. So do we imagine sympathetic tone is high frequency or low frequency? Sympathetic. All right, so let's do some. I'm getting some high and I'm getting some low. It's okay. That's why we're here. Okay. So sympathetic tone is a part of our nervous system, a state of our nervous system, if you will, that when it activates, there's going to be four primary things that happen. Okay? Fight, flee. In trauma responses can be freeze and or fawn. Okay? For a long time, we only usually talk about the first two. Now, as some of this trauma-informed care is coming through, we're starting to bring in some of the other two, which is again more the freeze and fawn aspects of the nervous system. So actually what we'll do is we'll start with the physiological changes. When that happens, meaning there's an elevation, I got to do something, high level stress came in, so I got to fight, I got to flee, or it's just so overwhelming I froze or fawned. When that happens, there's certain changes that happen in the body. Blood goes primarily to your extremities, right, to activate mainly skeletal muscle, right, because you're going to have to do some level of movement. We good there? Or even this response, it's a holding response, there's still muscle contraction. We good? Also what happens, pupils will dilate, increases depth of vision, peripheral vision, heart rate will go up, adrenaline can go up, blood pressure actually typically goes up. And is that a good or bad thing?
Good. It can be both. Depends.
Certain situations, it can be amazing. Got it. As an acute response, acute is meaning time. So a lot of times people hear acute when they say a symptom and they think it might mean like a level of severity. Acute and chronicity is levels of time. So acute is typically like short period of time, chronic is a long period of time, right? In an acute setting, sympathetic stress, responding appropriately, is awesome. I'll wait for the other part of that a little later, okay? So an acute setting, meaning I'm in a stressful environment, I need the sympathetic tone because I need to have some action, whatever. Beautiful, I'm glad it works. This is like the miracles, right? When somebody, a kid falls and a freaking board lands on top of them and it's super heavy, and then some person that couldn't usually lift that weight can lift that weight, right? Like, woo, big out, right? And maybe threw a punch you didn't know you had. Sympathetic stress, woo. Okay, so you're already getting sympathetic. Woo, 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 woo. That's sympathetic, okay? So, what's parasympathetic? Physiological changes first. Instead of blood going to the skeletal muscle, it comes back here, to the core, right? So this is where we rest, we digest, and we heal. You already see my voice changing? Slower, right? So we rest, we digest, and we heal. So from a tone and frequency, I want to demonstrate a few different things. One is, I actually want to first start with brainwave states. Yeah. So I want to make sure I don't confuse things for y'all. We'll start with brainwave states, and then I'm also going to tell you about information. Okay. So brainwave states, we have waking beta. Waking beta is 13 to 30 hertz. So when you hear hertz, it's cycles per second, right? So I've been studying frequency pretty heavy for the last 2 years. And so I'm going to give you what's called a sine wave. So sine wave is, have you guys ever seen like the waves like this? Mm-hmm. Right? Sometimes you see them like on a heart rate monitor. Boop, 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 right? So if you want to imagine, if you will, waking beta frequency of the brain, this is like when we have a lot more judgment, rationale, reasoning, logical stuff, right? So 13 to 30 hertz, okay? We can move into alpha, which is a slowdown. And I would say alpha actually gets you closer to parasympathetic. I would say humans used to live more in alpha. So 8 to 12 hertz So from 13 to 30, now 8 to 12. Slowing it down. Not as many. You can go even lower into theta frequency. They call this a dream-like state, not quite sleeping. Some say lucid dreaming, but also people that have spent a long time in meditation can get there. Right? So it's your Tibetan monks or those that have been in like Vipassana. And now there is technology that can help you get there. So going slower. Now we're 4 to 8. Okay? Now I want to bring in something new. Who remembers 1G? On your phone you have what now? Okay. Do you know what the difference between 1G and 5G is? Frequency. When 1G, the original, came out, before there's 2G, and LTE and all that stuff, right? The towers could be much further apart. You guys remember this? Why? 1G is the frequency that it's at, and how, based on how much of this is happening. So again, if it's very rapid, a lot of information can get packed in that. But this, I'm not going very far, versus a longer waveform, there's less information in it, but it can travel further. You following me? So 1G, less information, could travel longer waveform, slower speeds. Right? That's why it took so long to pull up an image. Now, I was not even talking about videos yet, right? Pull up an image. It was like, I was waiting a minute, right? And then we got 2G. It started to speed up a little bit. What happened? What had to happen? They had to shorten the distance of the towers. Catch me? 3G. 5G now, that's why all the towers are so close together. What is happening now is how much information is packed within that waveform. I bring this to your attention because as we've seen tech increase in how much data, information you can pack in a waveform, we've also seen what happen. Your own stress go up. So we're packaging more data. It means we can get all the information. We don't have a problem with lack of information anymore, do we? We have a problem with overwhelm and integration of the information. And so this is driving sympathetic stress. Sympathetic is higher frequency, which means faster tone. We good? Versus parasympathetic would be slower frequency. Which to me, it means that parasympathetic is now more important than ever because the majority of humans can't find their way there. Take a breath into that. Let me tell you how easy it is in reality. So alpha wave, we talked about that. It's really a relaxed brainwave state where things start to slow down. Can put you in parasympathetic tone. Parasympathetic tone, from my own research, I believe is actually most linked with earth frequency. The base Schumann resonant field is 7.83 hertz. What did we just say alpha was? 8 to 12. Parasympathetic is like right there. If the human can figure out how to be there, they're going to be in parasympathetic. How easy is it to get into alpha? Very easy. Sit up, close your eyes. When you close your eyes, you decrease how much information is coming in. A lot of the information comes through your eyesight. So already, eyes closed, we have decreased how much information we are receiving at any given moment, which is putting stress on our brain. Now, we start to breathe through the nose. The nose is more connected to parasympathetic tone. So we breathe in the nose for a count of 5 to 6 seconds. And then we breathe out the nose for a count of 5 to 6 seconds. We breathe in. And we breathe out. You get out of your head into your body, you breathe in. And you breathe out. One more, just like that. Breathe it in. And breathe it out. And then as you open your eyes, can you already feel the room start to change? most environments you enter are sympathetic. But people will attune to the most aligned and usually lowest frequency in the room. It's interesting because some people will have this thought, because I know some of you in here, I want to be high vibration. And I say, yes, but what are you talking about when you say high vibration? When you're talking about the physiology of the body, I'd say it's actually better to be low. So here's a question for the community. Sympathetic tone, I think we've all witnessed a lot of people in it. And you say majority of the day. You know what we call that? Sympathetic dominance. Okay? Out of what percent of the day do you feel like the majority of the population is in sympathetic tone? 0 to 100%. 80. 70? 90? Yeah. From what I've witnessed, experienced, and researched, it's about 80%. Did you know it's supposed to be flipped? The human is designed to be in parasympathetic tone 80% of the day. And most of us are flipped. So the question that often comes up here is, how do I get anything done? That's what's called flow. Is it possible to be doing work and be in parasympathetic tone? I'd say 90+% of me adjusting people on a table, I'm doing work. I'm in parasympathetic tone. It's a state of your being, right? When challenge matches skill is when you often most experience flow. When the challenge is over exceeding your skill, that's when you'll experience frustration. That's when you'll experience the interference. And that's often what will drive you to sympathetic stress. It's overwhelm. Okay? Underwhelm happens too. When the challenge is less than your skill, that most commonly leads to distraction, lack of focus, because you're bored. And so you start doing other things, and then you drive. And so I think a big question here is, if we can not acknowledge the majority of the population is in sympathetic dominance, 80% or more of the day, what's driving it? Because we're not fighting and fleeing a lot. That was, don't get me wrong, certain parts of the world are definitely doing that. But if you are in the majority of your areas, surroundings, for us here in Tucson, for the most part, we're not fighting tigers. Right? We're not fleeing from rabid freaking bats and stuff. Go over there to, what's that little plaza? They got the bridge and the bats are in. They come out in July, August. St. Philip's, yeah. But not right now. So if I'm not running for my life, I'm not fighting for my life on a daily, what's driving the sympathetic stress? Humans. Stimulation. I'll tell you right now, it's what she's holding in her hand. It's the majority of the sympathetic stress right now is coming through your devices. It is less physical. Can we agree to that? The stress where we have to fight, flee, drive sympathetic stress is way less physical for the majority. I'm not saying there's some situations that happen that is that. But for the majority, it's much less physical, it's much more mental. Much more mental. Why? Because we're receiving all kinds of information that we never even had access to. Right? So if your algorithm is programmed to show you the worst of the worst, it's going to show you the worst everywhere. It used to be, if you want to learn some information, let's even go back to the early 1900s, you had to go where? The library. And then I think it was like 1910, 1920, radio came in. So maybe you catch a couple radio stations, and then you can tune in to the news, and they share some local news, maybe some world news. Right? And then, we had computers, and then the internet came in 95. Whoa, the World Wide Web, and that World Wide Web's been growing. And now, I legitimately can't think of anything I can't get access to. Right? And then we have our socials, right, that are driving certain behaviors. but it's a lot of stimulation. It's a lot of information. The amount of information that we get right now is 100 times more than I think our previous generation. Just even a previous generation. And it's exponential. Right? It's no longer following a steady trajectory. It's ramping up. And so what does that do to the human mind? It drives anxiety. It drives worry. It drives conflict. And again, why do you see all these things on your social media anyways? They know what keeps the human on. Conflict. Controversy. I always find issues like you be on that and you think like the world's at war, you know, these different political games, but you really just go out in your community, you talk to people, it's a lot more chill, ain't it? Well, that long ago. No, you're right. And so it's driving some of the worst of human behavior, but it's keeping us in sympathetic dominance. So the goal is hopefully to give you tools and strategies tonight to help you disarm some of that. Last piece I'll talk about here in parasympathetic versus sympathetic is advantages and disadvantages. And I'd like community involvement here, right? So what are some advantages of sympathetic tone? I think we've already talked a little bit about it. Advantages of sympathetic tone. If I'm doing a workout, right? You're going to be probably sympathetic tone. It's okay. You're going to be stronger. Blood's going where it needs to go. That's an advantage. Give me another one. Kind of. If you're a teacher, you said?
If you're a danger.
Oh, I brought up that too. Yeah. All right. If you're a teacher, or if you're in danger, or both, right? You can save your life. Yes. Okay. How about you? Give me an advantage of sympathetic stress.
Well, I'm a teacher for one.
Where do you find an advantage when you're in sympathetic tone?
An advantage?
Yeah.
I can't think of one tonight.
Okay, can't think of one today. What about if I'm a sympathetic tone? Can I get things done? Maybe sometimes it feels like a little quicker. I go pop, pop, pop from one thing to another. Right? So it's like the multitasking. But is it good? I don't know. But you could do it when you need to do it, right? If I can pop in, I need to handle this, handle that, handle this. Sympathetic tone could be good. All right, let's go over some disadvantages. Can I get a disadvantage? Sympathetic tone.
The disadvantage would be like just like aches in your body because you're always stressed.
Yes, we're where it gets to signs of sympathetic dominance. I agree. And how about you?
Digestion continuing, like bad digestion.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get to that too. You're already naming it for it.
What did you say?
Bad digestion for over sympathetic tone. Sure. Disadvantage.
Burnout.
Burnout. Another one. We're getting all signs. Let's just write it down. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I mean, over time, right, what it's shown is to cause like hypertension, especially in folks of color,
Yes.
disease.
All right. So we're saying burnout. You said indigestion or you could call it dysbiosis. It's like problems with the gut. Inflammation. Autoimmune.
Cortisol overdrive.
Cortisol. Okay, we got some migraines, headaches. Yes.
Low birth weight,
Wow. Yeah, that's another one. Mm-hmm.
maternal mortality.
Wow.
I feel scattered when I in that sympathetic tone at work. You know, there's just being spread thin.
Good observation.
Increased anxiety.
Preach.
So you guys know this all too well.
Teacher for a doctor.
Insomnia.
Lower sexual
Insomnia for sure.
You guys hear all this? What about shoulder pain, neck pain?
You know.
Yeah, back tension.
All the shoulder pain.
You want to know what Spirit told me about autoimmune?
Go ahead.
So I kept seeing, because I had a client and she was talking about autoimmune diseases and how her family has it, and Spirit just kept highlighting auto over and over. And so I was like, well, where else do I know the word auto besides like an automobile? Then I heard autopilot. It was like when your system is constantly on autopilot, or you're like suppressing the emotion, doing the same thing every day, it can cause
Stuffing
an
it down.
autoimmune, yeah.
Stuffing it out? Okay, I'm with you. This is gonna sound crazy, but how about almost every disease process that you know is gonna be driven in sympathetic dominance? And this is why the most important thing, if you have something to heal in your life, you have to be able to get your parasympathetic tone 80% or more of the day. Doesn't matter what it is. Name it. Doesn't matter. You will heal better if you are in this 80% or more of the day. Are we good on that? I want to make that super clear. Because everybody tries to try everything under the sun. Because like we're, you know, holistic community, we're into some things, and we'll try, you know, you name it. Right? What was the methylene blue, and you'll try the B12 injections, and you'll go get IVs, and you'll get stents, you can do all this stuff. Did you do that? Here we like to teach foundations. Alright, so we have what we used to call it, essentials of health, essentials of healing. Where we teach the foundations, movement, nourishment, recuperation, and presence, and we teach the elements, earth, water, air, and fire, and how they relate to your health. But I would say, man, outside of that, and really with that, this. How can I be in parasympathetic tone as much of the day as possible? If you notice that there is a certain behavior, certain actions driving sympathetic tone, and you got stuff to heal, you gotta let it go. I don't know how much more clear to make it. Are you catching me, feeling me? We'll get to that. Yes, caffeine will drive sympathetic tone as well. Okay, we're good? See, I got something big to heal. I need to focus on this as much of the day as possible. If you're over 80, great. Amazing. So figure out what drives the sympathetic tone, you gotta let it go. And we'll work on the other piece there. Okay, so we talked about a lot of the disadvantages of sympathetic tone, and yes, the list can go on and on and on and on. And real quick, we'll drive into parasympathetic advantages and disadvantages. So advantages, I think, have become somewhat clear, right? Rest, digest, and heal. That's easy. What are some disadvantages of being in parasympathetic tone? Because there are some.
Stagnancy.
What's that?
Stagnancy.
Stagnancy, sure. Right? Maybe you get stuck. You need some fire. So I would relate parasympathetic, I said, to the earth and to the water. What do you think sympathetic tone is? Fire. That's the fire. Why do you think things are so inflamed? By the way, do you guys know what itis means? I want to teach you about the itis. A lot of people don't know this. I think it's the most important thing to know. One of them.
How do you spell that?
ITIS. You know what the itis is? Itis is inflammation. Anytime you go get a diagnosis from a medical doctor and it has the last ITIS on it, the last 4 letters, it means inflammation. So arthritis, joint inflammation. Gastritis, stomach inflammation. Most people hear it, they think they got a disease. It means it's inflamed. They named it. That's all it is. But because it has an itis on it, you're like, oh man, I'm going to be messed up forever. It's inflamed. It means it's in the fire. It means you're probably in sympathetic tone. So you got to do what? You got to bring in the water. And you got to bring in the earth. And it's slower. Both of those are slower frequencies. How they ascend? Earth lowest, water, fire, air. Okay? Air is mental. How we doing? Questioning some things? Okay. Who's got the itis? Anybody remember diagnosed with the itis? I think majority have been diagnosed with some itis. Right? Don't worry, you ain't got a disease, you got inflammation. Okay. So yes, a disadvantage of parasympathetic tone could be that you're getting stuck and you actually need the fire. Right? So the fire ignites things, creates action. So sometimes we've been too much of a slowdown, and so we need to send it. We're going to move on. Biggest thing with nervous system regulation is tying it to your ability to adapt to stress. So when your body or your nervous system self-regulates, it means that you're able to adapt to the stress. Okay, what do I want to say about that? I think that's actually enough there. So there's different types of stress. Physical, chemical, mental, emotional. I'm adding previous trauma as a bonus. And energetic or spiritual. So all different types of stressors. When the stress is exceeding your ability to adapt, is often when you will move into sympathetic tone. Remember when I said when the challenge exceeds the skill? It's overwhelm. So when we get overwhelmed from a stressor, and it could be this whole list of stressors, the body will move into a sympathetic tone, which can, over time, create dis-ease. So let's get into the time component. Acute sympathetic stress, nothing wrong with it. Probably a great thing. Chronic sympathetic dominance is what creates dis-ease, sickness, and then potentially disease. We good there? So is it possible that I could be really good at adapting to physical stress, but horrible at adapting to emotional stress? Is it possible that I could be amazing at adapting to emotional stress and horrible at adapting to physical stress? And so do you know your trigger? Because what we're going to get to eventually is what are the tools or the strategies? I can't give you a tool or strategy until you know what the cause is. So hopefully this makes it super clear. So we're going to go down one at a time. So physical stressors. I put out what I feel like is a majority. Cardiovascular stress, right? Your ability to respond to like endurance type things. Strength, power, endurance, agility, mobility, and flexibility. That would create a well-rounded human. Okay, so is it possible that I could have good cardiovascular endurance and ability to react to stress? So say, hey, go run 2 miles, you're like, no problem. Then I say, squat 250 pounds, you're like, no way. Right? So we see a lot of those kind of single-faceted athletes, if you will. But this explains how can somebody, one person takes a trip off the curb, they break an ankle, the other person, nothing happened. Their ability to respond to physical stressors. Now, physical stress can be one-time big event, right? Major trauma. For the majority, it's repetition, repetitive trauma over time, right? So meaning you've been doing the same motion a certain way, usually in a dysfunction over time, and then owie, right? I've exceeded my body's ability to adapt. When that happens, usually there is a level of pain, right? And what is pain? Let's talk about that for a second. How many people don't like pain? Raise your hand. Be honest.
What kind of pain?
Hey. Right? That's the truth. What kind of pain?
Workout pain?
Yeah, some workout pain can be good, right? And then some people like this other kind of pain, and then whatever. Yeah. So, pain is a messenger. That's it. Pain is an acronym. Pay attention inside now. Right? So pain is just trying to alert you of something, and it's asking you to connect with it. But what do the majority of people get taught about pain? Avoid it. Avoid it, numb it, run away from it, try to ignore it, right? If you do those things, you don't understand why it's there. If you don't understand why it's there, you can't learn. If you can't learn, you don't heal. Healing is learning the lesson to why you are experiencing what you're experiencing. That's healing. So no lesson, no healing. So if I'm experiencing shoulder pain, I get a cortisone shot, and no, I no longer feel it. Did I learn a lesson? No. So symptom relief, healing. No. Yeah, well, that's why I come in here. I'm going to tell you straight up. Symptom relief is not healing if you didn't learn to why you're experiencing it. Okay? So if I go somewhere and I receive something that takes my pain away, and I don't realize why I had it in the first place, I didn't heal. So guess what? I'm bound to repeat it. But if we're trying to say, hey, the reason you're experiencing this low back stuff is because you're sitting for 6 hours a day and you don't do any movement. So yeah, we can help give you some space, but until we change that pattern, this is probably going to keep coming back. Right? The reason you're experiencing shoulder pain is because you've been stuck in a masculine pattern. And that's the right side of the body, left brain, right body. And every time you try to do and force it through, there it is. The reason you're experiencing your knee pain, whatever, right? If we don't get to the why, you miss out on the lesson, you don't heal. So it ain't about the symptom relief, it's about understanding why you're experiencing the pain. It's because they're there to teach you something. Sometimes it's physical, but you want to know the truth? Majority, it's mental emotional. Majority is mental emotional. Even if you're having physical pain, the majority of the cause is mental emotional. I say 80, 90% of the time. 100% energetic. We'll get there. Okay. Chemical. How are we doing on physical? We good? Your body to adapt, your ability to adapt or non-adapt to physical stressors. Chemical stressors. This is big. Could I be experiencing physical pain because of a chemical stressor? Massively. Oh my God. Majority will come from your food. What you're eating or not eating. Are we eating food or food-like substances? Alright? Food or food-like substances. Different. If I have it, you should have probably one ingredient. The food that it is. But if you're eating something that's like and half the thing you can't pronounce, what else is in it? You got additives, right? So that's what additives. And then we can also talk about genetically modified foods. You guys want to get a little bit of that? I'll just do a little bit there. A lot of people don't know this. Corn in the United States. 99% is GMO. Okay? So what's the genetically modified corn? What did they do to it? You know what they did? They made it Roundup ready. You know what that means? Roundup is the insecticide that they spray so it doesn't kill the corn. So they're spraying it with insecticide so it doesn't kill the corn. That's how they genetically modify it. But what's in that insecticide? Something called glyphosate. Look it up, right? Which is a known carcinogen. But let's not stop there, all right? So they're spraying this on the corn, but what do they feed the cows? Corn. What corn? GMO corn. What do they feed the chickens? Corn. What corn? GMO corn. What do they feed the farm-raised salmon? Corn. You don't know this? Majority of the stuff if you're buying conventional is eating GMO corn. And they say you're not what you eat, it's what you eat. So that's why we've been losing our nutritive value over time, because you're taking these animals that would have been eating all these different things, and now what are they doing? They're eating corn, genetically modified corn, Roundup ready corn. Whew! You wonder why I have some issues. So if your body is eating food-like substances with all these additives and poisons and toxins, you have to detox it. What's that feel like?
Shit.
Liver damage.
Yeah. Detox is usually the worst symptoms. Did you know the majority of the symptoms that you experience that you call sickness is detoxification? What if your body was just trying to get well instead of being sick? Well, allow this to percolate. Okay? Think about all the symptoms of detoxification. What are they? Sneezing, snot, sweating, throwing up, coughing, diarrhea. That's all detox symptoms. Ask any addict, was the drug harder or the detox harder? Detox is the hardest thing you can do. So our bodies can be experiencing low-grade or high-grade sickness all the time, trying to detox. Could that feel like low back pain, kidney pain, liver pain, throat pain, head pain? Head pain is a big one. Headaches. One of the biggest symptoms of detox. Try to detox caffeine. Who's one of my caffeine drinkers in here? Be honest. If you drink 1 to 2 caffeinated drinks a day, and you've been doing that for a while, try to go 3 days without. You're going to have a headache. Right? You will. So, additives. Organic versus non-organic. So this is one I just like to throw out there. When buying produce, there are some things that you can buy conventional versus organic. They call it the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. So if you haven't looked into that, look into that. Basically, there are some things, usually if they have a harder outer shell, they're okay to buy conventional, like avocados. Conventional is fine. Versus like blueberries, spinach, you need to buy that organic because it's got a bunch of stuff on it. And even if you do your rinses and stuff, it's hard to get out. So, and then I also talked about like the meats and the other things of what they're eating. And so, yeah, I mean, you do your best. I always say, like, why does it cost me more to not get it modified? Why does it cost me more to not get the spray on? Anyway.
Because some crops are subsidized by the government.
Yeah, exactly. So subsidized by the government. There you go. Okay, toxins, pollutants, and when we talk about these, they're mainly going to be in your air, your water, and your soil. Right? Air, water, soil. So in here, you'll notice we have the Allen Breathe Smart. So we try to detoxify the air as much as possible for everybody that comes in here. We got one there and one there. It covers the whole space. Water, we have the Kangen water machine, so when you're drinking out of that thing, it's coming from the Kangen water, which is, I don't know, electric something water. I don't know. It's supposed to be one of the best water. We don't even tell people about it, but it's good water. Soil, so how much can you do there? I mean, so now there's a bunch of regen ag movements that are happening to replenish the soil. They say some of the reasons we don't get the minerals that we get in our food anymore because the soil has been, because they started monocropping and whatever. But chemical, right? So what's our ability to adapt to chemical stress? Now, with that said, as much as I like to eat clean, I have to throw in some things in there every now and then. Because I want to see, can I adapt to stress? It's the reality. Like, I know about aspartame. I'll get a Diet Coke every now and then, right? Because what I realized when I started eating super clean, I became super sensitive. Right? Everybody experience this?
Yeah.
You start eating all the clean stuff, then you have a pizza, you're like, oh God, oh. What I'm saying, man, I should be able to go somewhere, you drop me off, and I should be able to eat the things, right? So you want some level of adaptability, so you gotta put in a little bit of that stressors every now and then. But for the most part, try to eat pretty good. So there's the 80-20 rule, right? 80-20. Okay. Mental. Listen, when I think mental, I think thoughts is a big one. Where are the thoughts going on? Is your ability to adapt to that? This is work. So work stressors, family stressors, relationship, finances. Oh, damn, don't talk about finances. Conflict. Mental stressors. How's my ability? So every time I go through this, I want to say, how's my ability to adapt to these things? Because one of them's going to really stand out to you, so maybe you don't know where your focus is. Emotional, I'll put the big six. So we had a little girl here earlier. She's like, oh my God, those are all the ones from Inside Out. I'm like, yes, they are.
So true.
So you have sadness, right? You have worry, anger, disgust, joy, and surprise. Are the big six. But outside of those big six, there's a huge feelings wheel. Have you guys ever seen this? It's like over 300 or 400. I don't know, it's massive. So there's all these other side feelings with emotions. But what is your ability to go into sadness, experience the sadness, and come back to harmony? That's mastery. Not neglection of emotion. The ability to feel what needs to be felt, when it needs to be felt, and then come back to a resting state. How long should emotion last? 90 seconds. Did you know that? Yeah. So now we're talking the difference between emotion and a mood, right? So we should be able to experience an emotion, take it all the way through a cycle in 69 seconds. There's a book called The Molecules of Emotion if you want to go deeper in that. I see that one hit a lot of people. So maybe that's a book for you. Molecules of Emotion.
What's the first word?
Molecules of Emotion.
I feel like that should depend on the emotion. Because, like, if you're going through grief, like...
Grief's not emotion like this. So in grief cycles, yes, I'm with you. The grief cycle lasts much longer. And then there will be experience of sadness. And there'll be experience of loss. And there'll be experience of whatever. But can we take it through that experience? Come back. Boom. Depression, right? Not really an emotion. It's more of a state. I would say grief's kind of more of a state, a process, if you will. So meaning that we have a feeling. A feeling can lead to an emotion, which is energy in motion, which has some level of expression. If that lingers, it lingers and becomes more of a mood. Right? If the mood lingers, it can become more of a behavioral trait. If the behavioral trait lingers, it can become more of our personality. The personality lingers. It's our personal reality. I wish I could take credit for that. That's Joseph Spencer. Okay? So feeling, emotion, mood, behavior, personality, personal reality. So now we live our life through that. How many people do we know that way? So again, mastery is the ability to have the emotion when it needs to happen. I'll say this. It's not always the time and place. And that's hard because sometimes we have to hold it, don't we? Until we can find a safe space to be like, fuck, man, I just need to fucking let that out. Because there is good expressions of anger. Right? When you need to get it, there's healthy ways to do that don't harm other people. But from what I've experienced for myself, I was very angry when my brother passed away. Right? Very angry. Really angry at God. And then angry with my family situation. And then the financial situation. All of it. stayed angry for a long time. But you know what was underneath the anger? When he passed away, I think I cried 2 months straight. And like as a young boy, being 14 years old, like not being able to control that was like a thing. You know? Somebody could say something. I was like, tough though. Not tough. You know, like fuck, man. So it was like, it was hard to be like, I can't be around people right now. So for 2 months, like not being able to control it, as soon as I got some control of it, I didn't cry for 11 years. It's not healthy. A lot of my anger is repressed tears. So sometimes we have a disassociation with emotion. So is it the right emotion? At the right time, at the right place. The ability to go through that experience, come back home. You know? So some of you might do really well with some of these, and not so well with some of the other ones. Right? So what's my ability to adapt to emotional stress? Previous trauma. I feel like this could be a workshop. If we get some head nods, we'll do it. Okay? It's probably going to be a longer workshop. It's okay. I want to just give at least a brief mention, because I would say this also has been the bulk of my work since 2017. So going on 8 years now, is helping people navigate a lot of trauma. And if we have had an experience with trauma, there are certain triggers in our environment that will create a stress response. Okay? And so that's background, that's kind of always there. And so our ability to notice what the trigger is and do better with it over time. Something that I've learned is I'm not sure the trigger ever goes away. I used to think it did. I'm not sure now, to be honest. I know that there are things you can do, right, to help definitely reduce the trigger. But I do think you should be aware of what it is. But what I do see happen time and time and time again is whatever the trigger, whatever that creates within you, it will create it, but then your ability to come back home is faster when you start to heal. So I take care of a woman right now who's, just exited a relationship, and whether there's some domestic stuff going on there, and I've been with her, she's been coming in for a while now, but this part of the disconnection has been happening over the last 6 months, and she's had multiple triggers, and she gets down on herself when she starts to feel that certain way, because it creates a lot of anxiety with her, and creates a lot, and she finds it hard to breathe, hard to eat, and I had to remind her, I'm like, you remember when it originally happened and it took like 3 months to get out of that? How long did it take you this last time? That's progress. So all you gotta do is get better. Get a little better. Okay. Energy. We talked about this one kind of already. We talked in the realm of information, right? To me, energy and information are almost synonymous. Okay? How much information can be in something will determine its frequency. And that has an energetic effect. But the other one we haven't talked about is EMF. Some people are very sensitive to electromagnetic frequency and radiation, or EMF radiation. And so we did the example of our ability to gain information throughout the generations. What we haven't talked about, which is actually a really good book for this, is called The Invisible Rainbow. It talks about how much information is in our field right now from the means of all of the things. And how they actually were able to show signs of changes in health every time something new got brought in. So electricity was one of them. Right? There was a time that we didn't have electricity. Now we have electricity. And so then power lines got ran. Right? And when the power lines got ran, there was a lot of people that were sensitive to it and would have all these symptoms and disease processes. And then we had radio frequency. Right? Yeah, so if you look at the book, you can see sometimes when these big peaks in pandemics also happen. And then we had, the television satellites, right? And then we had the cable, and we have fiber optics, and we have Wi-Fi, we have Bluetooth, and we have, it's all there. It all has energy, it all has information. Some of us are sensitive to it, some of us not as sensitive to it, but it's all information that's passing through your body right now. Right now. We just can't always feel it, right? So the human being only feels and perceives within a certain frequency range. That's why we only see certain colors, and there's certain animals that see in different color spectrums. right? So we can only hear in certain frequencies, but there's certain things that hear in different frequencies. And so it doesn't mean they're not there, they're there. And they're passing through your system, which means that, again, it's going to lead you towards more sympathetic tone if you don't know how to ground. So if you guys didn't come to the Earth workshop like a month ago, I talked a lot about this, and I actually put up the research article. They did this research experiment where they exposed somebody to frequency, grounded and ungrounded. And basically, if their feet were on natural Earth surface, it would go right through. Didn't change the frequency at all within the human. But ungrounded, you caught it all. Right? So when we don't ground our negative pole, which is the feet, to the Earth, all of that background information, energy, electromagnetic radiation, lives in the body. So when you connect your feet to the Earth, it allows it to disperse. If you're always connected to the Earth like we used to be, wasn't that long ago, it just would pass through. But now a lot of us are just holding that. We don't know why we feel the way we feel. You can decrease, again, we talked about inflammation already, the itis. Your total body inflammation, you guys listening, total body inflammation can go down 50% by grounding 30 minutes a day. I say this, almost nobody does it. Right? I got shoulder issue, I'm inflamed, I got itis. Put your feet on the freaking earth. Now what's cool is like, oh, I got time to put my feet on the earth. Where's the earth? All the earth's hot out here. Right? Okay. It's asphalt or hot rock. Now they make grounding mats and grounding sheets. So the tech, that's what's kind of cool is like tech kind of also helps us. So it's like we got these tech things that are causing us harm, but then we got these tech things that help us be in our tech world. So anytime I'm working on a device, usually I got a little grounding mat at my computer. I got my feet on, so if I'm on my computer, a little grounding mat. I go outside every day. But if not, there's things that you can do. Grounding sheets, grounding mats are effective. Okay, spiritual. What about spiritual stress? Yes, connection. Right? When we're feeling a lack of connection, I say lack of connection. I don't know what people believe in. I don't care. It's all good. But connection is a good thing. And connection with other people is a good thing. Some people find God in other people. Right? Some people find God here. Some people find God in Mother Earth. Wherever you find it, you have a connection. Another big one for me is purpose. When we feel like we're lacking purpose in our life, that can cause a lot of stress. Right? You ever felt that? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And because you don't know what you're supposed to be doing right now, it's like, it's that background, like, oh, God, I'm just doing things to do them, I guess. And so if you're living life without purpose, I can guarantee you, you're going to be unfulfilled. Right? One of my mentors, he taught me this. He said, fulfillment is about putting all the things you want on your plate and eating it all. Whatever that's for. So, seeing things through. Well, I break it down to fully feel the moment. Connection, having a level of feeling like you're feeling this level of guidance, and also service. Another mentor from Dynamic Essentials, Dr. Sid Williams. He said you can serve your way out of anything. That one kind of caught me too. But I get it now.
You can do what? You can
Serve your way out of anything.
Out of anything.
And so this is how I understand it now. Is that when you're experiencing the unfavorable emotions, when you're feeling a lack of energy in your life, a lack of potential purpose, what tends to happen is it all becomes about you. And it's only your pain, only your suffering, only your whatever, right? Service is what allows you to open back up to the whole, to the others, to realize that there's more than just this. Ugh. So, what's more? Service. You serve your way out of anything. Okay. How we doing? Doing all right. Okay. Take a breath. Let it go. So as I go through this list, physical, chemical, mental, emotional, pre-trauma, energy, spiritual, are there any of those that are really standing out to you? Because if there are any of these that are standing out to you, I can almost guarantee you it's blocking you from getting into parasympathetic tone, to getting into nervous regulation or self-regulation. Right? Because it's creating the inability to adapt. We don't get tired from work. We get tired from the friction of the work. I'll tell you right now, if I put any of you in your passion, in your purpose, right, in your joy, you can work all day. But when there's a interference to that, right, when there's friction to that, you get tired quick, don't you? So we got to figure out what's causing the friction. What would your life look like if there was no friction? The other piece that I haven't talked about, which I think is going to hit for a lot of people, I'm sorry I missed it, but it's coming in right now, is that there are two options when we're experiencing overwhelm. Meaning that there's more stress than we have capacity for, more stress than we have potential skill for, right? There's two options. One, you decrease the stressor. You came to this workshop, you don't want to say next. One, you decrease the stressor. A lot of you like, I got triplets, I ain't shipping them off to China, they're here, right? This is like, stressor's here. Okay, I get it. There's a lot of things in life you can't change. But you know, thank God there's option two. You get better. So two options. I'm currently experiencing a stressor in my life that is overwhelming. I can either decrease the stress, which I talked about, remove the thing that's causing the stress. And some of you can remove, correct? Some of you might think that you can't remove, but you can. Or you get better. So this, you gotta train. That's it. That's the only way that you're not victim in it. Otherwise, you'll be victim. So if you want to transition from victim to a potential victor, or whatever you want to call it, I don't care, is you have to say, okay, I'm getting my ass kicked right here. This sucks. But maybe it's for a short time. I'm like, I can endure for that long. But maybe it's a long time. I got these things for 18 years. At least. So you're like, okay, where am I feeling stressed from this situation? Is it physical? Is it chemical? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it previous trauma? Is it energy? Is it spiritual? If I can identify what is the main stressor within that relationship, I can then work on that component. I remember before I started dedicating to meditation every day, my ability to focus and be patient was not that great. Right? So I'm getting a mental stressor, and maybe it's a child. Or really at that time, this is actually pre-Jackson, at that time it was other colleagues talking shit. So be cool, bro, be cool. Be cool. And so when you don't have patience, you react instead of respond. And there's a difference there, right? I said, I'm noticing myself highly reactive right now. Because for those of you who don't know, there's another side of Dr. Brett Jones prior to the healing journey that used to like to fight. And I got some skill in fighting. So I was like, there's a part of me that's like, I can fucking knock you out. And I'm holding back right now. There's a reactive side of, oh man, I could. But then I learned the patience, and I'd ride the wave of that feeling, and then I could choose a response that was going to be more of an asset in my life instead of liability. Right? So, if I have a situation in my life, what part of it am I being challenged on, and how do I train it? So if it's mental, what are all the ways to train the mental? There's a lot, right? Talk therapy might be one of them, you know? But maybe it is a meditation. Maybe it is sitting in patience. You know? If it's chemical, okay, well, what is the chemical that I'm interacting with? And maybe I gotta do a food test. And what am I sensitive to? What are the allergies? I don't know. Is it physical? Yeah, man, I'm just freaking tired. My back hurts all the time because I'm gonna lift this thing up. Okay, I guess I gotta start training. Right? So if I can't change the stressor, I can change myself. Be good. As long as you got breath and air in those lungs and a heartbeat, you got time to get better. So, tools. One of the greater tools to measure your ability to adapt to stress as a general is HRV. You've never heard of it? It's heart rate variability. A lot of the wearables have them now. Used to, you had to go get a specific test, took like 5 to 15 minutes, but that's actually not ideal because you want to measure it every day. And so for those that are interested on how good is my HRV right now, and it's all unique to you. But your heart rate variability will tell you what's your current ability to adapt to stress. I can almost guarantee you when your HRV starts going down, you're more prone to experiencing sickness. Right? This is where your immune system will start to drop, and this is where you become more reactive, and this is where you feel overwhelmed. And so there's certain activities that you could do or not do when HRV is low. And then how can I train for our HRV to be higher? This is where we go into the foundations of health, and then we go into the elements of health. And so we can do another workshop on that. And then the last one for tonight is I do want to talk about chiropractic, obviously. So, a lot of people understand chiropractic from some level of pain base, because that's a good portion of why people come in. And just real quick on that, like how does chiropractic help pain? Chiropractic will help pain from a few areas. One is if you have inflammation in a joint, almost always that joint is compressed, right? Almost always. I'd say 99% of the time. And or it has dysfunctional movement. So maybe it should be going like this, but it's like a little cockeyed. So it could be, we call it misalignment, subluxation, or just compressed joints, stiffness, right? So we help with mobility. We help free up the joints. That's one way. Another way is something called mechanoreceptors. Every single one of your joints have what's called mechanoreceptors. It's kind of how you know where your joints are in space, that plus proprioception. Mechanoreceptors actually help feed the brain. It's one of the 3 things the brain needs. Mechanoreception, oxygen, and sugar, glucose, right? So that's why, for those that don't know, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, chiropractic are really good. If you notice in a lot of those people, what do they start doing? You guys start going forward. For the forward lean, the forward stoop, is actually throwing off brain centers from mechanoreception. Which came first, the disease or the thing? But it doesn't matter. Chiropractic helps, it helps with mechanoreception. But when mechanoreceptors are low, because the joints aren't moving properly, there's another receptor called nociceptors, which are pain receptors. So if you will, say they're even, I might not notice my pain. Mechanoreception drops down, you're going to notice the pain a lot more. You're lacking motion. So you bring the mechanoreceptors up, and you bring them up, then you won't notice the pain as much. And then usually inflammation goes down anyway, so we win-win. Okay, pain, cool. That's like the 2 most common pathways. I don't think everybody understands that chiropractic's not about that. We're actually about the nervous system regulation. So it's a nervous system profession. It's found in actually the first profession ever to trace where the nerves go. Did you know that? So nerves actually your spine, peripheral nervous system, goes out to every organ, muscle, tissue, gland that you have. Chiropractor is the first one to use that. Chiropractor is the first one to use X-ray for medical diagnosis or diagnosis at all. But it's about nervous system regulation. How does that work then? You ever notice how we cue breath on the table? The primary objective of you coming in here is to help you go where? So a system that's in sympathetic tone holds itself a certain way, breathes a certain way, has a certain heart rate, has a certain blood pressure. So we're finding where those areas that you're holding that sympathetic stress and then helping them come back to a resting neutral. And we should be able to see that on the table. We're trying to teach you this. Because if we can teach you that in here, and you can feel that here, and experience that here, it's a lot easier for you to create it outside of here. I think the reason people don't go here is they don't know what it is anymore. Because everybody knows what it feels like to feel stressed. But do you know what it feels like to be clear? Like you don't notice, like, oh man, yeah, I feel freaking good right now. I feel peace. I feel at home. I feel rested. I feel like I'm not a threat right now. So one of the biggest intentions that we did an intention ceremony before we opened this up, before we do our grand opening. And my big thing, the one thing that I laid out for intention is, you guys ever play tag? You remember the safe tree?
Yes.
When you play tag, you have the safe tree. If you're touching the safe tree, you can't tag it. Right? I'm on the safe tree. I was like, when people come here, I want this to feel like a safe tree. Right? So even though worries, blah, 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 might exist out there, when you come in here, it's all good. We got you. What's the reason for that, though? That's where you'll find this. Okay? So again, big lesson here. You got something to heal in your life. You need to be in this. To be in this, you got to figure out what the triggers might be. Where are you having a hard time adapting to stress? And then talk to us about it. You know, that's what we're here for. We're here to help provide the strategy so that you can learn. All right? And so be a guide, if you will. But remember, all of this is self-healing. All of this is self-regulation. You have the power within you. Maybe you just forgot. So we're here to give you a reminder. We're here to help you. This is what parasympathetic tone feels like. So when you're out of it, try to come back to it. It's like meditation. You're meditation, you're like, okay, I'm supposed to be meditating, and then this random ass thought comes, oh man, you just come back to meditation. It's all good. Don't have to judge the thought. Don't have to judge, oh man, I got outside the parasympathetic, I'm just like, oh, no, it's all right. Just come back when you come back. But the more you can live in this, I'll tell you right now, humanity would feel a lot different in this tone, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We could have a conversation in this tone. Instead of argue or debate. It's funny. I've been. There's been a few people. Hey, man, will you debate on this? I said, I have no desire to debate anybody. Because to debate, somebody has to be wrong. Whereas I have a need for understanding, and that's going to happen in a conversation. So can we just have a conversation with each other instead of debate? Because I actually want to see where you're coming from and why you think the way you think. It could be that. I know we haven't seen that in a while. We haven't seen that in a while. But it could be that. Could you imagine if it was? Wouldn't that feel good? So guess who has to be that in order for it to happen? The more people that are that, the more people become that. It's really that simple. That's why they say, if you want to change the world, change yourself. So it's on me to show up in the spaces. Like in integrity, the way I need to show up. And it's on you to show up into the spaces in integrity and how you want to show up. And then you get to be an example for a lot of people. How are we doing? Cool. Is there anybody that's a non-client in here? I think we're all